Former President Trump is acquitted for the second time in an impeachment trial, cleared on the single charge of causing deadly insurrection. The US Senate found Mr. Trump not guilty of inciting US Capitol rioters following an historic Senate trial.
Respondent Donald John Trump, former President of the United States, is not guilty as charged in the article of impeachment.
Here, the Prime Minister gives some new detail about his plans for a cautious easing of coronavirus restrictions in England. And the government says it's on track to meet its target of offering a first vaccine dose to the top 4 most vulnerable groups by Monday. And a dramatic day in the Six Nations rugby. Wales remain on top, having narrowly beaten Scotland by 25 points to 24. Hello, very good evening to you. The former US President Donald Trump has been acquitted in his second impeachment trial by the Senate of inciting a riot after last month's storming of the Capitol building. Tonight's Senate vote fell short of the two-thirds majority needed to convict him on the single charge of incitement of insurrection. In a statement, Mr. Trump said this had been yet another phase of the greatest witch hunt, he said, in the history of America. Our American editor John Sopel has the latest.
After 4 days of acrimonious hearings, the second impeachment trial of Donald Trump came to a close, and the vote to convict or acquit.
The Senate judges that the respondent, Donald John Trump, former President of the United States, is not guilty as charged in the article of impeachment.
7 Republicans did find him guilty, but not enough to convict. The leader of the Republicans in the Senate voted to acquit, but then launched a lacerating attack on Donald Trump and his behavior.
There's no question, none, that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day. No question about it. The people who stormed this building believed they were acting on the wishes and instructions of their president.
The events of January the 6th, when the Trump-supporting mob marched on Congress and ran amok after the former president told them to march there, will never be forgotten. Closing arguments in this trial set out dramatically different versions of events.
The cold, hard truth is that what happened on January 6th can happen again.
This impeachment has been a complete charade from beginning to end. The entire spectacle has been nothing but the unhinged pursuit of a long-standing political vendetta against Mr. Trump by the opposition party.
Senators, please be seated.
Earlier, there was a mighty kerfuffle over whether Democrats would call witnesses, following a new disclosure about comments allegedly made by the president while the riot was going on.
In the middle of the insurrection, when House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy called the president to beg for help, President Trump responded, and I quote, "Well, Kevin, I guess these people are more upset about the election than you are."
This wasn't in the script. At times, the exchanges seemed to belong to the school playground rather than the Senate floor.
That's civil process. I don't know why you're laughing. It is civil process. That is the way lawyers do it.
To have called witnesses would prolong the trial and is probably the last thing Joe Biden wants, holding up his plans to push through a COVID relief package, and would make no difference to the trial outcome.
Again, I want to thank you.
But of course, the person most relieved by today's vote will be Donald Trump. He escapes conviction, but he'll go down as the first US president in history to be impeached twice.
Well, let's pick up with John now. John, a dramatic day indeed. What now for Donald Trump then, and indeed what for the Republican Party?
Well, I think that there was those in the Republican Party who thought that Donald Trump would go off to Florida, he'd play golf and never be heard of again. In the statement that he's issued tonight, he makes clear that he believes that the Make America Great Again movement is just beginning. He's got an awful lot more to say and will be saying those things over the coming months. That will disappoint an awful lot of Republicans, even some of those who voted to acquit, who want a quieter life now for their party. But Mitch McConnell, who we heard from in that piece, has also said, don't think Donald Trump's got away with anything. President Trump is still liable for everything he did while he's in office, but it's now for the criminal justice system to look into that. And it does seem that there is the potential for criminal investigation into various activities of the former president. But Donald Trump is still casting a long and a very strong shadow over the Republican Party.
John, thank you. Well, the Prime Minister says he hopes to begin lifting lockdown restrictions in England from next month, beginning with schools, then non-essential shops, followed by pubs and restaurants. Mr Johnson also said that people will have to learn to live with coronavirus, echoing a suggestion by his Health Secretary that it could be managed like flu by the end of the year. Some scientists have warned against easing restrictions too quickly, even if the vaccination programme remains on target. Here's our political correspondent, Jonathan Blake.
Day by day, thousands more injections to vaccinate people against coronavirus. By Monday, the government is confident it will have met its aim of offering 15 million people their first jab. On a visit to a vaccine manufacturer in Teesside today, the Prime Minister said he was cautiously optimistic about COVID-19 being contained long term.
New therapies are being discovered the whole time, which are enabling us to reduce mortality, improve our treatments of the disease. So yes, I do think that in due time it will become something that we simply live with.
Effective vaccines are crucial to allowing restrictions to be lifted, and the government's promised a more detailed timeline soon. But Boris Johnson gave some idea of the order in which things would open up.
Starting with schools, we very much hope on March the 8th. That's got to be the priority. Our children's education, our kids' education is the number one priority. But then working forwards to getting non-essential retail open as well. And then in due course, as and when we can, prudently and cautiously, of course, we want to be opening hospitality as well.
But some advising the government warn that even with effective vaccines, a resurgence in cases can't be ruled out.
I don't believe anyone expects we're suddenly going to lift all the social restrictions. I don't think really anyone's thinking that way. We're just going to immediately lift them and not care what happens. But if for some reason we did choose to just pretend it wasn't here anymore at some point, then yes, there is the potential to go back to a wave that's a similar size to the one we're in now.
A drink in the spring sunshine might feel a long way off, and Downing Street has dismissed as speculation talk that pubs and restaurants could be serving us outside by April. But the more people get vaccinated and the more the government talks about living with coronavirus long term, the more the pressure to get life back to normal will grow.
If it's the same level as flu, we don't think for a second of locking down the country over flu. There will come a point where there will be a death rate from COVID, but it's at a normal level, and then we have to cope with that. Obviously, we still try and prevent it, but we accept it. I think we have to.
There's an acceptance in government that this lockdown must be the last in England. So while ministers feel the frustration, they're proceeding with caution. Jonathan Blake, BBC News.
Well, the latest government figures show that there were 13,308 new infections recorded in the latest 24-hour period, an average of 13,896 new cases recorded per day then in the last week. 23,341 people are in hospital with coronavirus across the UK. In the past 24 hours, 621 deaths have been recorded. That's people who died within 28 days of a positive COVID test. 688 deaths were announced on average every day in the past week. The total number of people who've died is now 116,908. And as for the vaccination programme, 544,603 people had a first dose of one of the 3 approved COVID-19 vaccines in the latest 24-hour period. More than 14.5 million people have now had their first jab. So, as we've heard, the government says it's on track to meet its target of offering jabs to the top 4 most vulnerable groups by Monday. In a last push, ministers are urging anyone who hasn't had a jab in those groups to come forward. Here's our health correspondent, Catherine Da Costa.
Making sure no one's left behind. This community bus was out in southeast London today, taking vaccines to those who can't get to a vaccination centre or who may still be unsure about having it. Up and down the country, healthcare workers and local authorities are helping all communities to take up the offer.
The more people we vaccinate, the more herd immunity we get, we reduce the chances of the majority of people getting unwell. It's also true to say that the people that are less likely to take up the vaccine are often from the more deprived areas or from people from the BAME communities, and we know that they have been adversely impacted by COVID-19. So it's good for them individually and for the communities.
The government says take-up in some groups has exceeded their expectations, with around 9 in 10 over 70s coming forward. Anyone who hasn't yet had a jab in the top 4 priority groups is now urged to book an appointment at any time.
So who's next to be vaccinated? Well, as age is the biggest risk factor, the priority groups continue with the over 65s, then everyone with underlying health conditions, continuing all the way down to the over 50s. The aim is to offer first doses to all of these groups by May, as well as rolling out second booster shots and then offering first jabs to all remaining adults by September.
We're on target to meet the goal by Monday of offering a vaccine to everybody in group 1 to 4, and then by May offering vaccine to everybody in groups 1 to 9. We have a high degree of confidence in the supply we've got to meet those goals.
Approved COVID vaccines are safe and effective for adults, but what about for children? Oxford University's launched a year-long study to test the safety and immune response of its vaccine in 6 to 17-year-olds. While most children are unlikely to fall seriously ill with COVID, some may benefit from vaccination, and it may help overall efforts to stop the spread of the virus. Catherine Da Costa, BBC News.
Surge testing for coronavirus is being expanded to parts of Middlesbrough and Walsall and a postcode near Basingstoke in Hampshire. The rapid local testing programme is already taking place in parts of England to help monitor and suppress the South African variant of the virus. OK, with all the sport now, here's Carthy Nyanatigram at the BBC Sports Centre. Hi, Carthy.
Hi, Kate. Thank you. Rugby Union's Six Nations games certainly delivered drama today, with an added touch of flair from Johnny May as England beat Italy by 41 points to 18. While there was a topsy-turvy thriller between Scotland and Wales, with Wales just edging it 25 points to 24. Patrick Geary has the details.
Everywhere in Scotland, the advice is to go slowly, steer carefully. Everywhere bar one hole in the ice. For these Scotsmen, speed is encouraged. Ali Price to Darcy Graham, a try threaded by Scottish confidence. After all, they won in England last week, and when their captain Stuart Hogg steered into the skid, Scotland led by 14. But in icy Edinburgh, the match was about to U-turn. First Lewis Rees-Zammit, then Liam Williams pulled Wales closer to Scotland's bumper.
And Wales do have the try, and they are roaring back into this game.
They were back within 2 when Xander Fagerson failed to touch the brakes. These days, contact with the head tends to mean red. Scotland down a man, Wales soon up 3 points, which made what happened here all the more incredible. Hogg drove the Scots back in front.
Try for Scotland and their captain.
But running through the history of Welsh rugby are players like Rees-Zammit, just 20, just brilliant.
And Lewis Rees-Zammit, he's going to get there. What a try! What a try from this wonderful young winger!
A try that deserved an audience, even a hostile one. A Welsh bonus point, but their lead only a point, vulnerable to one last Scottish charge. Time up, breathe out. Having lost to Scotland at home last week, within 3 minutes England found themselves losing again to Italy, no masking the exasperation. But rusty wheels started to turn. England got level, picked up speed, then Johnny May took off. A Twickenham touchdown befitting Heathrow. Fortunately, quarantine not necessary. England ran in 6 tries in all, 2 of them scored by Anthony Watson. They've never lost to Italy, so in strange times, this result is the nearest this tournament has to a certainty. Patrick Geary, BBC News.
England and India played out a fascinating first day of their second test in Chennai. Rohit Sharma hit a thoroughly entertaining 161 as India made 300 for 6 after winning the toss and choosing to bat. There was a crowd in Chennai, making it the first time the England men's team has played an international in front of spectators in almost a year. It's time to pop out of the room if you don't want to know today's football results, as Match of the Day and Sports Scene follow soon on BBC One. Manchester City have extended their lead at the top of the Premier League to 7 points after a comfortable 3-0 win over Tottenham. It's a record 15th consecutive victory in all competitions now for Pep Guardiola's side. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp admitted the champions can't close the gap on the league leaders as they were beaten 3-1 by Leicester City, who are in second place. Burnley beat Crystal Palace 3-0 and Brighton and Aston Villa drew 0-0. Rangers have a 21 points lead at the top of the Scottish Premiership. A fabulous Ryan Jack goal gave them a 1-0 victory over Kilmarnock. There were also wins for Dundee United and Hamilton, while Aberdeen and St Mirren drew 0-0. Rafael Nadal chasing what would be a record in the men's game of a 21st Grand Slam title is through to the fourth round of tennis's Australian Open. Nadal beat British number 3 Cameron Norrie in straight sets on the first full day the tournament has had without fans. And in the next few hours, Serena Williams will start her fourth round match. You can keep up to date with the tennis and races 3 and 4 in sailing's Prada Cup Challenger Series on the BBC Sport website. Kate.
Kathy, thank you very much indeed. That's it from us for tonight. The Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab will be on the Andrew Marr Show tomorrow at 9 a.m. on BBC One. But from me and the team here, a very good night. Bye-bye.